So I'd love to open it up to the audience for questions. So if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. The microphone will come over to you. But we also, as we wait for a first question, I know there's one of you in there. We will get to you right here in the up front. We have a question that came in via Sli.do. This thing's pretty cool. But the question, you probably don't want to go into too much of your own numbers, but what percentage of revenue do each of you spend, respectively, on sales and marketing?
We're a digital agency, so I'm not sure it's relevant to what we spend. I think it's more what type of spend our clients are doing who are like Shredded, who are selling services into the marketplace. But I don't have that off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Well, I feel like what is the metric? Is it like I think the standard is 10% of sales, right? And I think we're about that. And we're not spending a lot of money on, obviously I came here, so that's really nice. Thank you, ThunderTech. But it's more around content. It really is like education, right? It's not sales decks necessarily, but it's around a lot of pieces that we know the client will be better for. And since a lot of services now are pretty complex, so there's a lot of effort put into exactly explaining them the expectations of the service you provide.
I actually know mine. It's 8.5% on marketing, and I spend about 22% on my cost of sales. That's of gross revenue. It varies depending upon what things we do, but that's about where it sits for us.
Great, very great. So we've got a question from the audience right here.
That actually was my question on the slide.
Well, so you were anonymous. That was fantastic. That was perfect. Any other questions in the audience before we wrap up? We got one right all the way in the back. Let's see how fast she can run to get there.
So content assets are usually seen as expenses, right? And we see that organizations are spending money developing content assets used for both marketing and sales and expensing it rather than looking at it as a balance sheet investment in an intellectual property asset. And I wondered if in the clients you've been working with, you've noticed investment trends around investing in content marketing assets, content assets for delivery that are used really by sales, marketing, sometimes operations, being invested in a different way, or is it always just an expense that marketing is responsible for in their annual budgets?
Well, that's a good question. I think you hit actually something that's one of the fundamental challenges between sales and marketing is sales are typically revenue above the line and marketing is an expense below the line. And so it's like, sales, yay, we bring all the money in. Marketing, boo, we spend all the money. But we haven't seen, it's great what you're asking about, but no, I haven't seen any realignment on how people view those expenses.
I don't know necessarily about how they view the expenses or a particular trend, except the fact that I see, instead of producing large volumes of content, I see people more focused on quality content. Ann talked about it yesterday in her talk. For a long time there, people were just kind of throwing everything out there to see what would hit. But I think people have realized that consumers are savvy and they want quality content. The problem with quality content is it costs more to actually build and do, and it requires a lot more thought. And so I don't know what the exact number is, but I know that it does cost more to do.
Yeah, I just want to, Vince's point is bang on. We wish clients would spend more time and energy on quality content and less on volume. It's because it's the web and it's a relatively inexpensive publishing medium, there's often a tendency just to put stuff out there. And we love clients that come to us, especially on a website redesign, who say they want to launch a new site with a fraction of the amount of content on it. So I think, again, it's like, look at data, let data drive your decisions, do an audit of your existing site, look at what pages perform, what pages don't, and if there are pages that just don't get any views, like, just turf them.
We've got time for about one more question from the audience. Do we have anybody? Right here in the center. She'll be right over to you.
There's a lot of talk about the sales and marketing, but I think we also need not to forget the developers and the technology behind it. Because in my opinion, we all talk another language, sales, marketing, and the tech people. And sometimes we need to sit in a room, throw a key away, and stay together till we be able to communicate with each other what we really want. But we build a lot of times not exactly what the marketeers want and the tools that they need to happen, what their needs are. So is that also your opinion, and do you have maybe like solutions, or how do you do that? Or?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. Like looking at a case study of ours from last year where we worked on a new site, e-commerce site for a large B2B plastics manufacturing company. I think a lot of the success early on came from having the Scrum team in the same room with marketers and sales, and really for ideation to be formed around those three core teams. Because, you know, we had ideas as to features, marketing had ideas as to features, sales were able to come in and say, people don't struggle here, this is not the issue. If you could answer these 4 or 5 questions on the site, it's going to have a real big impact on us at sales. Even things like the actual overall strategy of the site changed thanks to the communication between those three groups, where they were able to identify between sales and marketing that there was really this group of buyers that were quite challenging. They took an awful lot of time from sales, and really sales wanted to focus on sort of those larger accounts, the ones that brought in a lot of value. So it changed the strategy of the site to, okay, let's actually focus in on the sort of the smaller buyers that have smaller orders, but they take up a lot of time. And then we as a development group were then like, okay, well, what features can we actually develop that will actually help inform these buyers, can answer the questions on the site so they're not always being driven to sales. So I think, you know, it's a great point. There's a lot of value in having that collaborative work between, you know, the implementation partner, the sales team, the marketing team. Let's meet and discuss what are the challenges and how best can we resolve those together.
So I come from a software engineering background, and one of the things I had to learn as a young developer is that technology is an enabler. People, the end user, the product that you're developing is to solve a business problem or perform some sort of a business function. Nobody cares if we wrote the greatest algorithm in the world or the coolest looking user interface or whatever. What they care about is, does it do the job that we need to get done? And that is where, the rubber meets the pavement. If you want to get everybody together and have a discussion and talk about, deep insights in terms of what do people want, what do you want to produce to solve a business problem, that's the key thing. But using, hey, I want MVC versus .NET, all that is white noise. Nobody cares. If you go talk to, we do some infrastructure stuff as well, and I tell my infrastructure engineers, I said, no business owner said I wanted to come in and own a bunch of computers. That's not why they got in business, right? Unless you're Michael Dell, that's a different story. But nobody wants to own a bunch of computers, and nobody wants to own a bunch of technologies. Technology is an enabler. It's a tool to get the job done. And if we keep that in perspective, then we're going to serve our customers a lot better.
Excellent stuff, guys. So a big thank you, Michael, Keith, Vince, Bruce, for taking time out of the day to join us on CMS Connected. I want to thank you, the audience, for posing some really great questions. Really thank you for that. And of course, a big thank you to our sponsor, Falcon Software, for really making this entire show happen, CMS Connected. And obviously, a big thank you to the 404 conference, because just a great show indeed, for sure. So without further ado, for all of our guests, I am Tyler Pipe. And remember, get connected, stay connected, right here on CMS Connected. We'll see you guys next time.
So you've got a great website with hundreds, maybe even thousands of visitors. That's great, but each one has their own background, interests, motivations, and goals. But you are showing them all the same content. Not very clever. The solution is content personalization, allowing you to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time in the right form. So let's see how content personalization works.